Hi all, welcome and welcome back to my channel. I'm sure glad you came to watch my video, and I sure hope you're prepared to be blown away about what I'm about to share with you. Ready? According to KTLA.com news out of the state of California, the California Supreme Court ordered a trial judge on Wednesday, October 14th of 2020, to consider whether Scott Peterson's convictions for murdering his wife Lacey Peterson and their unborn son Connor should be overturned. Yes, you heard me right. Overturned. No, this is not his death sentence that has already been overturned. This is for his actual convictions as a result of his trial. Need oxygen? I gotcha. Breathe. Breathe in, breathe out. You'll be fine. You're just in shock. Very much as I was when I read the news. And no, I'm not joking. And no, I haven't lost my mind. Okay, maybe that's going too far, but I know I read what I read. So, I'm going to go through it all for you so you can fully comprehend what the hell is going on in Cali. Stay with me. We'll get through this together. Now, as you may or may not already know, the California Supreme Court already overturned Scott Peterson's death sentence on appeal in August of this year. I didn't do a video on it because, frankly, I was pretty irritated about it, and I figured I'd cover it during the new sentencing hearings. After the court's decision to overturn his death sentence, his lawyers filed a separate petition, citing an array of reasons why his convictions themselves should be overturned as well. And as much as I'd love to tell you that the court laughed at that petition and filed it where it belonged, right in the trash, it didn't. Not only did the court not laugh, but it actually agreed with Peterson's attorneys that one matter in the case needed to be re-examined. Apparently, a juror in the case failed to disclose that she had once feared for her own unborn child because she was being harassed by the ex-girlfriend of her boyfriend. Apparently, this is of concern to the court, and it feels that it may have influenced her decision of whether or not she felt Peterson was guilty. I imagine the court is concerned that her fear for her own unborn child may have prevented her from being fair and impartial while making her decision about Scott Peterson's guilt or innocence. They are so concerned that the fact that she didn't disclose it during jury selection has now caused the entire case to be reevaluated. So, in a brief order, the court sent the case back to San Mateo County Superior Court to determine whether Scott Peterson should be granted a whole new trial on the grounds that, quote, juror number 7 committed prejudicial misconduct by not disclosing her prior involvement with other legal proceedings, including but not limited to being the victim of a crime, unquote. Okay, now I'm feeling lightheaded. But I came well prepared to get through this story, and I have a full oxygen tank right here with me for when I need it, which will be about every 2 minutes or so, as I trudge my way through the shocking information and the story of what I believe Scott Peterson did to his wife Lacey and their unborn child Connor. This is going to be a long one, guys, because I have a lot to say about this case and what is currently taking place. So, you might want to get comfy, get your own oxygen, or at least get a good stiff drink, because you're going to need it. Yes, I'm going to go through the case. Not only for my viewers who may not know who Scott Peterson is, or why he's been sitting on death row since his conviction, but also because it was a compelling case that captured the attention of the entire nation back in 2002, and it deserves revisiting. So, before I begin, I just want to say that there are people out there who believe that Scott Peterson did not kill his wife Lacey and unborn son Connor. So if you're one of those people, I'm sure you're very happy to hear that Scott has a chance at a new trial. That's fine, and you're entitled to your opinion. But I watched the case very closely when it happened, and I don't share in your delight. I believe Scott murdered his pregnant wife. I always have. So, if you wish to debate the case with me in the comments, I welcome it, but only if you're able to agree to disagree in the end, because you're not going to change my mind. So, you're welcome to state your opinion respectfully in the comment section without worry that you will be shredded for your take on this case, and I, in return, will respect your right to be wrong. Sound good? Okay, on with the show. For those of you who may not be familiar with Scott Peterson, he was convicted on November 12th of 2004 of first-degree murder of his 27-year-old wife Lacey and second-degree murder of their unborn son Connor. Since his sentencing, he has been sitting on death row in San Quentin Prison in California. In August of this year, the California Supreme Court overturned Peterson's death sentence, citing that, quote, the trial court made a series of clear and significant errors in jury selection that under long-standing United States Supreme Court precedents undermined Peterson's right to an impartial jury at the penalty phase, unquote. According to ABC News, the court said it was required to reverse the death sentence after determining that the trial court erroneously dismissed prospective jurors who said they opposed the death penalty, even though the jurors gave no indication that their views would prevent them from following the law. Now, I suppose the court could have been wrong in doing this, but really and honestly, I don't think it would be right to expect jurors who are opposed to the death penalty to vote to sentence someone to death just because they're following the law. That's asking them to go against their personal beliefs to follow the law of the land. I don't think it would be right to make them live with a decision that they wouldn't have otherwise made had they been given the option. But that's just my opinion. It's a tough one. But the article said the jurors gave no indication that their views would prevent them from following the law. So maybe it wasn't an issue, but I don't know how it wouldn't be. Anyway, so the court decided that the errors in jury selection that, under long-standing United States Supreme Court precedents, undermined Peterson's right to an impartial jury at the penalty phase. So his death sentence was overturned. This took place in August of this year. Now, I'm not an attorney, but when this took place, I looked into it to find out what would happen regarding his sentence. I read that even though his death sentence was overturned, the prosecution could elect to retry him for the penalty phase and pursue the death penalty a second time. Now, I know that you as my viewers are a bunch of smart cookies. You've proven that with your comments on my videos. So, I generally try to watch what I say in my videos, so I don't end up getting myself into trouble. So for those of you who just jumped on your keyboards to start letting me have it about double jeopardy, let me save you the keystrokes. The double jeopardy clause in the Fifth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution does not apply to the penalty phase of a trial. It only applies to the main portion of the trial where the defendant is found to be guilty or not guilty of the crimes of which they have been accused. So, legally, he can be retried for the penalty phase. It can be confusing, I know, but he was already convicted of his crimes, and he needs to be sentenced. He was already sentenced to death, but his sentence was overturned on appeal. So, the prosecution has the right to retry the sentencing portion of the trial and have a new jury decide his new sentence, if that makes sense. I know. You think I still don't make sense because the whole point of this video is to let you know that his entire criminal case is being reevaluated to see if he deserves a new trial. Yes, but there's a difference. If he gets a new trial, technically he will have been tried for the same crime twice, but only because the court says that there was an error on their part, not because they're trying to add to his jeopardy. He can't get a worse outcome than he had, so retrying him to rectify the court's errors is in his favor because he could get a better outcome. Hell, if he gets a new trial, a new jury could find him not guilty altogether. Now that's a scary thought, huh? And just when you thought 2020 couldn't give us any more terrible surprises, well, here we are. Scott Peterson may get a new trial, and he may actually get found not guilty this time around. God help us. I need oxygen. I'm getting lightheaded again. And if that happens, which it won't because there's too much evidence against him, but if it does, then double jeopardy would apply. If a new jury found him not guilty, then he could scream from the front steps of the courthouse that he killed his family, and there wouldn't be a damn thing anyone could do about it, because he was already tried and found to be not guilty of the crimes. So there you have it. Okay, so before I get too far off of my original point, even though the court said they had to overturn Scott's death sentence, it was sure to include in its decision that it still upheld his guilty judgment. In the decision, the court wrote, quote, Peterson contends his trial was flawed for multiple reasons, beginning with the unusual amount of pretrial publicity that surrounded the case. We reject Peterson's claim that he received an unfair trial as to guilt and thus affirm his convictions for murder. Unquote. So, in other words, fine. We'll overturn your death sentence, but you can kiss our ass about not receiving a fair trial due to the amount of pretrial publicity. Go California Supreme Court. Then why the hell did the court change its mind and ask a judge to reevaluate the case for a new trial? Well, now that the court felt that it had to overturn his death sentence due to court error, it opened the floodgates for Scott's attorneys to suggest that the court overlooked errors during the criminal phase of the trial as well. Scott has maintained his innocence throughout this whole thing, so no doubt he was staying on his lawyers to find some loophole or needle in a haystack that could ultimately get him set free. And it looks like they may have found it. According to an article in the LA Times, Rochelle Nice, who was juror number 7, who the court believes committed prejudicial misconduct by not disclosing her prior involvement with other legal proceedings, failed to disclose that she had obtained a restraining order against her boyfriend's ex-girlfriend for harassing her when she was pregnant. The article stated that Nice was initially seated as an alternate, but replaced a discharged juror during deliberations. All the potential jurors were supposedly asked whether they had ever been a victim of a crime or involved in a lawsuit, and Nice answered no to both questions. Oh my god, I'm getting tired already. I need more oxygen. Scott's lawyers claim that she was 4.5 months pregnant when she was threatened by her boyfriend's ex-girlfriend. They found that she filed a lawsuit to obtain a restraining order against the woman, saying she feared for her unborn child. Her attacker was tried and convicted and sentenced to a week in jail, according to Peterson's lawyers. Why is this information so important? Why would it be enough for the court to decide to have the case reevaluated for a new trial? Because Scott's lawyers said that Nice was one of the 2 holdouts in favor of convicting him of first-degree murder for the death of his unborn child. He was ultimately convicted of second-degree murder for the death of his unborn son, but she wanted first degree. Well, apparently Scott's attorney didn't take too kindly to that, and he never forgot it. So, now he's going to pay her back by taking advantage of her failure to disclose her situation to get Scott a new trial. Clever, huh? Could you imagine being her right now? Knowing you're the reason why Scott Peterson may get a new trial? I jumped on this story pretty quickly after it broke, so she may not even know yet. But man, I wouldn't want to be her right now. Scott's attorney has accused Nice of not disclosing her situation because she wanted on the jury. Could be. But if that's what her plan was, it wasn't smart, and now he's going to make her the poster child for why you should never lie to get on a jury. The sheer fact that he may get a new trial because of her actions is bad enough, but can you imagine if he lucks out and gets a jury like we had on the Casey Anthony case? She better hope and pray that he doesn't get granted a new trial, or, if he does, that he's found guilty again, or she may join the ranks, along with Casey Anthony, of one of the most hated women in America. If I was her, I know my ass would be filing a petition to change my name ASAP, just in case. Okay, I'm going to start going over the case now. So, if you've heard it already and you don't want to again, I got you. Thanks so much for watching. If you want to know why Scott Peterson is fighting for his life from death row in San Quentin, then stick with me and I'll take you through the horrible case that landed his ass there and needs to keep him there. Oxygen. I need oxygen. Okay. Back to the year 2002. Scott and Lacey Peterson were a young married couple living in Modesto, California. On Christmas Eve, Lacey went missing while Scott claimed to have gone fishing at the Berkeley Marina. Lacey was due to give birth to their baby boy in about 4 weeks. According to both of their families, Scott and Lacey were very happily married and very excited to be having their first baby. Scott claims that when he returned home from fishing on Christmas Eve, Lacey was gone. He said it looked like Lacey had taken their dog for a walk because when he got home, he found the dog in the yard with his leash on. According to Lacey's mother, Sharon Rocha, Scott and Lacey were due to have dinner at her home for Christmas Eve, but instead of enjoying the day with her beautiful daughter, she received a phone call from Scott instead, saying, and she claims very specifically, that Lacey was missing, which she found to be an odd choice of words, just because she wasn't home when he got there. That didn't necessarily mean she was missing, but Lacey's mom picked up on that right away. She claims that Scott was the last person she knows to have seen Lacey on the day that she disappeared from her Modesto home. She said the last time she saw Lacey, they were sitting on the couch watching TV together, and the baby started kicking. She said she felt Lacey's stomach and urged Scott to as well, but Lacey told her that Scott never wanted to feel the baby kicking, and that really bothered her. People searched for Lacey the day she went missing, thinking that maybe she went into labor somewhere while walking the dog and she needed help, but they couldn't find her. So Lacey's stepdad called police. Scott told police that Lacey was planning to walk their dog to a local park, so police started their search there. They also interviewed neighbors, and one claims to have seen a pregnant woman walking her dog earlier that day, but she wasn't sure if it was Lacey. Police searched Scott and Lacey's home, but did not disclose any of the evidence that they took. They claimed the home was very clean, and they found a wet mop and bucket outside, along with washed rags in the washing machine. Police say they suspected Scott from the very beginning, partly because he claimed to go fishing, but couldn't answer any questions about the type of fish he was trying to catch and things like that. Lacey's mom claimed that she never suspected Scott and didn't want to think that he had anything to do with Lacey's disappearance. A command center was set up to make missing posters and organize volunteers who were helping look for Lacey. Lacey's friends say they became concerned when Scott didn't want them using any photos of him and Lacey together for the posters. They said he asked them to take down any photos they had posted with him in them, using the excuse that he wanted the focus on Lacey, not himself. They claim he wasn't very interested in the search efforts for Lacey or with helping with the volunteers. They also claim that he was not interested in speaking to the media or being on camera at any vigils held for Lacey. Police claimed to have searched a warehouse where Scott said he stored his fishing boat. They say they noticed what appeared to them to be homemade cement anchors that they found odd. Many searches took place, yielding little to no blood evidence, so police figured Scott did what they called a soft kill, such as a strangling or other type of murder that wouldn't leave any blood evidence. Now, just so you know, this is a summary of the case. The case was very extensive, and if I covered every detail, this video would be 5 days long. So, I'm omitting many details, but I'm sharing enough that you understand roughly what happened. What no one knew about Scott, though, through all of this, was that he had a girlfriend, Amber Fry. Amber claims that she met Scott on November 20th of 2002 on a blind date. She claims that Scott told her he wasn't married and they started an affair. She claims that on December 9th, Scott tearfully told her that he had lied to her, that he was married before, but that he had lost his wife. 2 weeks before Lacey actually went missing. Police say the day he made his confession to Amber was the day he purchased the second-hand fishing boat that would become a huge piece of evidence in the case. Scott lied to Amber about traveling often for his business so he could hide the times when he was at home with Lacey. But, over time, Amber became suspicious that his stories weren't adding up, so she asked a police officer friend of hers to check him out. Her friend did, and told Amber to contact the police. When she did, she found out that Scott did have a wife, a pregnant one, and that she was missing. Amber agreed to work with police by recording her telephone calls with Scott to give to them. On January 24th of 2003, police held a press conference introducing Amber Frey to the world and letting her tell her side of the story. At this point, Lacey's family realized that Scott was unfaithful and suspected him for the first time that he may have been involved. Scott carried out a series of strange behaviors that led even the members of his own family to believe that he may have done something to Lacey. On April 13th of 2003, someone found the body of a baby boy along the shore of San Francisco Bay. The following day, a walker found the body of an adult female lodged in the rocks along the shore of the bay about 1 mile away from where the body of the baby was found. Both Lacey and Connor were found near the area where Scott claimed to have gone fishing the day that they were missing. After the bodies were identified to be Lacey and Connor, police used the location where they were found, along with the evidence of the homemade cement anchors and a pair of pliers with Lacey's hair on them, to secure an arrest warrant, and Scott was arrested 4 days later in San Diego. Police believe Scott poisoned or strangled Lacey in their Modesto home, transported her body in a large toolbox into his fishing boat, and used his cement anchors to weigh her body down when he threw her into the bay on Christmas Eve. They believe he murdered his wife and unborn child so he could start a new life with Amber Frey. So, I guess we wait to see if he gets a new trial, huh? I will keep you posted if I get any more updates on this story. Thank you so very much for watching. I appreciate it, and I'll see you on my next video.